Good morning, student. We are from Devi Mahalakshmi Polytechnic, Kitwala, Department of Computer Engineering and Information Technology. Semester 5th, subject Operating System. Myself, Miss Anita Shirture. Now I am going to teach you the chapter number 4, CPU schedulings and algorithms. In previous lectures, videos, we have learned about the scheduling algorithms types. There are the 6 types are schedulings algorithm. The schedulings, the multiple processes are executed in one by one. So the FCFS, first come first serve, round robin, a shortage job first, and multi-level schedulings algorithms. Learning outcome of this video. To understand about the deadlock, then what is deadlock? Deadlock can be defined as the parameter blockings of a set of processes that either are complete the system resource or the communicating with each other. Deadlock involves conflicting the needs for the resources by two or more processes. In this lecture, we learn about what is deadlock, how it's work on deadlocks in the processing. So let's start the chapter number 4 and remaining topic of chapter number 4, deadlock. Next, deadlock. It is a situation in which two or more programs sharing the same resource are effectively preventing each other from accessing the resource, resulting in both programs increasing to function. Deadlock. It is a set of processes are blocked because each process is holding a resource and waiting for another resource acquired by some other process. For example, when two trains are coming toward each other on the same track and there is only one track, none of the trains can move once they are in front of each other. A similar situation occurs in an operating system when there are two or more processes that hold some resource and wait for resources held by others. For examples, process 1 is holding resource and waiting for resource 2, which is acquired by the process 2, and process 2 is waiting for process 1. The reason why earliest computer OS ran only one programs at a time. A set of processes is deadlocked if each process in the set is waiting for an event that only another process can trigger. It can be defined as the permanent blocking a set of processes that either they compete for a system's resource or communicate with each other. Deadlock involves the conflicting needs for resources by two or more processes. For example, in multi-programming system, suppose two processes are there and each want to print a very large file. Process A request permission to use the printer. Now I am telling the another example of a printer. I have already asked about the two trains are traveling on the one tracks, and as well as the one printer is there and multiple processes are working on each other. Then Then how it's work in the deadlocks, then how it's going to the deadlock condition. Then process B, then a very large file, process A request permission to the use printers, and then process B they are request permission to use the tape drive and is also granted. Now A, as all the processes is the set are waiting for and another process to trigger an event that could wake up any of the other members of this set. All the processes would wait forever. None of the processes can run. None of them can release any resource, and thus none can be acquired. The number of process and the number and the kind of the resources process and request are unique. This kind of request hold for any kind of resource and is called the resource deadlock. In operating system, a deadlock occurs when a process or a thread enters a waiting state because the requested system resource is held by another waiting process, which in turn is waiting for another resource held by another waiting process. If a process is unable to change its state indefinitely because the resources requested by it are being used by another waiting process, then the system is said to be in a deadlock. Deadlock occurs. Some characteristics of a deadlock. A deadlock situation can arise if the following four conditions hold simultaneously in a system. The first is mutual exclusion. A resource can only be shared in a mutual exclusive manner. It implies if two processes cannot use the same resource at the same time. Next is the hold and wait. A process waits for some resources while holding another resource at the same time. No preemption. The process which once scheduled will be executed till the completion. No other process can be scheduled by the scheduler meanwhile. Number 4 is the circular wait. The prevention techniques are used in a deadlock conditions. The method to prevent the deadlocks are: deadlock is a situation when two or more processes get locked and cannot proceed further because of interdependability. In real world, deadlocks can arise when two persons wait for phone calls from one another. It is defined as a situation where a set of processes are blocked because each process is holding a resource and waiting for another resource acquired by some other process. Process involved in a deadlocks remain blocked permanently, and this affect operating system performance indices like throughput, the resource, and resource efficiency. In a multi-programming environment, multiple processes may try to access a resource. A deadlock is a situation when a process waits endlessly for a resource and the requested resource is being used by another process that is waiting for some other resources. A deadlock can arise when four conditions hold true simultaneously in a system. The four conditions are I have already explained the mutual exclusion, hold and wait condition, no preemptions, and the circular wait. In this mutual exclusion, at least one resource is held in a non-shareable mode. That is, only one process at a time can use the resource if another process requests that the requesting process must be delayed until the resource has been released. Each resource is either currently assigned to exactly one process is available. Hold and wait. There must exist a process that is holding at least one resource and is waiting to acquire additional resources that are currently being held by another process. Process currently holding resources granted earlier can request new resource and is attracting the no preemption conditions. The resources cannot be preempted. That is, the resource can only be released voluntarily, then attacking the mutual exclusion conditions. The mutual exclusion for two processes. If one process is accessing the common resource, then the another process is excluded from accessing the resource. Thus, each resource is either currently allocated to exactly one process or it is available for other process to access it. Two processes can't simultaneously. For example of attacking the mutual exclusion, it is clear that by allowing two processes to write on the printer simultaneously will lead to chores. Actually, the only process which requests the physical printer is the printer daemon. The printer daemon never requested by any other resource. So, the deadlock can be eliminated and also it reprints only after the complete output file is available. But this could in itself lead to deadlock for two processes having finished their part, but not all of their output and can't attacking the hold and wait condition. Hold and wait. In this scenario, a process currently holding resource can request new resource to complete a task. If the process requests all the resources before starting the execution, deadlocks can be eliminated. I.e., if everything is available, process will be allocated whatever it needs and can run to completion. Whereas, if one or more of the requested resource are busy, then nothing will be allocated and the process would just wait for the resource. Some examples of a hold and wait. Consider a process that reads data from an input tape, analyze it for an hour, and then writes an output tape as well as plotting the results. Thus, if all resources are requested in advantage, the process will tie up the output tape and the plotter for an hour. Thus, this method wasted the resource. Next is attacking the no preemption condition. No preemptions is once a process holds a resource, it can't be taken away by another process or the kernel, and the resource can only be voluntarily released by the process. For example, if a process is assigned a printer and is in the middle of printing its output, forcibly taking away the printer because the plotter needed isn't available is not Attacking the circular wait condition. Circular wait. Each process is waiting to obtain a resource which is held by another process. Circular wait can be eliminated by a rule that if a process is holding a resource at the moment, then it can't request for the other resource, and if it wants to access the other resource, then it must release the first one. Another way to avoid the circular wait is to provide a global. Some of the examples is there. Consider the following resources numbered as of below: the image setter, scanner, plotter, tape drive, CD-ROM drive. A process may request first a printer and then tape. The examples with the diagrams: the A is assigned to I and B is assigned for the J. Here, if A is request for J, then I is greater than J, then A is not allowed to request J because that is a lower than what it already has. So similarly, if a B request for I is less than J, then B is not allowed to request for I. Thus, either way, deadlock is not possible. In this condition, deadlock is not possible, not working in here, not occurs in there. So, MCQ types are questions. First is, which of the following conditions is required for a deadlock to be possible? First is option mutual exclusion. B. A process may hold allocated resources while awaiting assignment of other resources. Option C. No resource can be forcibly removed from a process holding it. And D is all of the mentioned. The question is, which of the following conditions is required for a deadlock to possible? So, mutual exclusions also included there. A process may hold allocated resource while awaiting assignment of other resources. Always, this is the examples is the deadlock, and the no resource can be forcibly removed from a process holding it. It is also right examples of a deadlock, and all of the mentions are answer is right. So, next is the next question, which is one of the following. Next is attacking the no preemption condition. No preemptions is once a process holds a resource, it can't be taken away by another process or the kernel and the resource. Thank you.